Hello train fans from across the internet, and welcome to another collection video. So a few days ago I uploaded my locomotive collection for my HO scale collection, and that video did pretty well for me, so I decided to follow it up with my rolling stock collection. So without further ado, here's my entire HO scale rolling stock collection. Starting here, this was my first piece of rolling stock ever. This is an L&N flat car. Got this on Christmas Day along with my starter set, and I happened to open up this one first. So by technicality, this is my first ever HO scale train item that I've ever owned. So it's pretty neat for that, very sentimental. Still runs great, and as you can imagine, most of these rolling stocks, they do work, they're just rolling stocks, so it's not like they have any mechanical feature that can break. Yeah, it's pretty nice for a fairly cheap Bachmann. And following that up, here's another Bachmann flat car. It's a log car, and it actually came with these really nice detailed logs. So not only do these logs look really great on the flatbed, but they can also be used for decoration around the layout. So this one's pretty neat, pretty interesting. Has all these pegs. Pretty annoying because you have to put all these in on your own, and as you can see there's a gap because I lost one. So that's pretty annoying. Bothers me a lot, but it's still a really nice car. Tons of detail too if I can get the undercarriage there. Very nice. So moving away from Bachmann, don't know quite who made this. I'm pretty sure it's Tyco, though I may be wrong. It's a Spirit of 76 car, so it's pretty unique for that. I think these are actually based on something that happened in real life. I'm not sure if it's particularly the same thing, but I think they are loosely based on a real train car. This one's pretty interesting. Got it for like less than $5 at a train store, and it just kind of called out to me. Maybe I need to collect more Spirit of 76 stuff. And behind that, we have another Bachmann car. It's a B&O cattle car, I believe. So it looks like a box car, and it pretty much is, but I think it was actually used for cattle. Now, unfortunately, this one is missing a coupling. I do have replacements for it, but the thing with Bachmann nowadays, they have those tiny screws in the covers, and I couldn't be bothered to keep track of the screws, so that's long gone. Someday I'll have to find a replacement, or I can just keep it as it is. I don't usually use this one too much. It's pretty nice. This kind of has one of the fatal flaws of Bachmann Silver Series, and that being you can clearly see the weight. That always annoys me whenever I look at my Bachmann Silver Series stuff, because it's a pretty common problem with them. So there's a side. Now we have some model power cars. These are both box cars. We have this Napa Gold boxcar model power. These are even cheaper than Bachmann. You can see like the wheels are plastic, and you can't see the weight, but honestly I'm not even sure if this has a weight. It's very light. They're pretty cheap, but for the money they're not terrible, and they work decent enough. That's a Napa. This is actually a fridge car. This is actually Canadian. If you can see, I think it's Canadian National Railroad. Text is kind of hard to make out. Yeah, it's there. So that's pretty neat. I like the livery on these. Nice black and green, and nice blue I enjoy. Here's another one. This was actually in my first starter set. I'm sure many of you recognize it from the Norfolk Southern starter set that Bachmann still makes today. So this one has nice silver livery, the Southern. And again, the wheels are plastic. I don't think there's a weight or anything. It's pretty cheap, but for what it is, I like it. And it looks great when it's running. One of the better Bachmann Silver Series things that I own. This is a CSX grain hopper, I believe. This actually looks pretty decent for the price and the fact that it's made by Bachmann in their Silver Series, to be precise. And I've already told you Silver Series stuff can be very hit or miss, but I think this one's definitely a hit. Looks great when it's running, and I might actually get more of these someday. I'd love to build up a consist. So after that, we have more grain cars. And these are both Canadian. And these were actually given to me by my good friend, Northern Virginian Railfan. Some of you may know him from YouTube. Given to me for free, because he didn't need them. So we decided to give them to me, so I'm always grateful for that. These are pretty nice cars. They're model power, older model powers, and they look pretty great, honestly. Need to get a nice Canadian locomotive to pull them. Show the other one here. I think I like this livery a bit better because of the nice red. Yeah, it's nice to have a small consist of Canadian cars. So after that we have another flat car. This one is much smaller. And this is a Western and Atlantic. And it's hard to make out with the camera. This is actually a Manawa car. I bought it at a train store for pretty cheap. If you can see, I'm actually using it as a knuckle to horn hook conversion. So I have a knuckle coupler there and a horn hook on the other side. So that's my knuckle horn hook converter car that I use. And it's pretty good for that. It's actually fairly detailed for how old it is. I don't think this is a very recent model. So after that, we have another Tyco. This is a very distinct car. You could tell from a distance that this was definitely made by Tyco. This is their iconic autoloader. Comes with 6 vehicles, which again, another car that comes with nice scenery for the layout, and they just look nice on rolling stock. Not very realistic, I don't think, in the livery. You know, bright orange, you don't see that too often. But you know, it was pretty cheap, $7 for this and all the vehicles. So I couldn't really go wrong there. Bought that at my local train store. Here's a third item that my friend gave to me, Northern Virginia Railfare. This is a gondola. I believe that's what they're called. This one's just kind of a black... What railroad does this belong to? I mean, I can't see the label, but it's pretty nice. It is unfortunately missing a coupling. I have replacements, but I need the cover for it. So, yeah, and that's an Athearn Blue Box model. Then we have my favorite type of rolling stock, tankers. Here's a Texaco tanker. This is another Bachmann Silver Series. And Silver Series is especially true because this is a very silver piece of rolling stock. See, nice metallic. I love the shine on it. I just really like tankers. I don't know what it is about them. Here's another one. Pretty sure this is the exact same thing, just in a different livery. Also made by Bachmann. This is a Quaker State. Yeah, this one looks pretty nice. Can't really see it too well, but now you can. Nice green and white. And then finally, for another tanker, we have the White Pass tanker. This one's probably one of my most detailed pieces of rolling stocks, made by Athearn. And this White Pass is a railroad in Alaska, if you don't know. It's a heritage railroad. You know, this one looks pretty nice, running around the layout. Alright, next we have some hopper cars. We have a Norfolk and Western hopper. This also came in my starter set. And not you know, the highest quality. The wheels are all plastic and you know, it's pretty cheap feeling. But hey, for an $80 starter set, what do you expect? We have another one. This is the same mold, but it just feels a lot better because this is made by Bachmann. These are both made by Bachmann, if you don't know. As you can see, this one I actually have some real crushed coal in. Well, it's not real, but it looks real. Yeah, this one's pretty neat. Nice brown, another Southern. Then lastly, we have the Rio Grande. This one's pretty much the same thing, just kind of squished. I really like this one. I think it's another model power, so again, kind of on the cheaper side. But hey, does what it does. And last but not least, we have some HON30 cars. So these are narrow gauge, run on N-scale track, but they are actually HO scale. And these things are tiny. Like, if you can see, here's my pinky. Little size comparison. Yeah, definitely like the smallest things I own for this collection. So I have 3 of these, like square ones. Extremely tiny, very dinky. These probably are fairly fragile. Not that I would test that out. We have 3 triangle ones. These ones are like tipping cars. These are all HON30. Honestly, these ones aren't quite as small, but we have 2 black ones. Yeah, they look pretty nice. Yeah, so those are all the American freight cars. So next we're going to do some British and European stuff, so stay tuned. So next up we have all the British freight cars, so let's get right into it. First we have this Bolsover wagon. Don't really know what this would have been used for in real life. I assume coal or something. It's a pretty standard truck. Again, most of these are very old Hornby, so they're pretty cheap and have plastic wheels, which they work, so I don't hate them that much. Next we have a plank car. These are pretty much the most common form of rolling stock in Britain, or at least they were back then. This is one for Arnold Sand. I really like this one. I like the nice maroon livery. Maroon is definitely my favorite color, especially on trains, so I think this one looks pretty nice, despite it being on the older side. Moving away from Hornby for a bit, here's a Bachmann car. This one's actually fairly modern. You can tell because it has those nice NIM couplings. And the couplings are much smaller and it's overall just higher quality and more detailed. Got this one actually at a train show a few years back and it's pretty nice. It's definitely one of the better British cars I have. Next up we have this Prime Port car. It's another old Hornby. This one's pretty neat, pretty interesting. I like the green and the pig on it. And most of these, I'll note, most of these older Hornby ones I got all together in a lot on eBay. So here's another old Hornby. It's a tanker car this time. Actually, looking at this one closer, it actually has a decent amount of detail. All those rivets, if you can see. I actually like this one. I've always had a soft spot for tankers. Even though this one's cheap, you can see kind of the guards or whatever they're called are kind of falling apart. So, pretty nice car, can't really go wrong for what I paid for it. I'll just bring this one up close. Here's another Bachmann one, got it at the same time as this Plankwagen. This one I actually use as a conversion car, so you can see it has the American knuckler on this side and the British style on this side. Just so I can have some British engines pull American stuff and vice versa. I'll compliment the NIM couplings on these. I really wish we would use NIM here, so that they're super easy to remove and replace, so I really like them for that, and again, this one's pretty detailed. Definitely need to get more of these. In the last Hornby ones, we have a Texaco red tanker. It's pretty weird that this is the same company as that silver tanker I showed earlier, but obviously from two different countries across the ocean. I actually see these stars on it. That means, I believe, that it was used in the military. So that's pretty interesting. And last for the British stuff, we have a Great Western Wagon, a nice blue. Probably my favorite car out of that, out of this Hornby lot that I got. I like the blue and it's more contemporary. I think it looks pretty good. That's all the British stuff. So next we have some German cars. We only have two of these, but I'll show them off, of course. So this is a Errol. I don't know what that means in German, but these cars are pretty high quality. They're made by Fleischmann, so I assume they're a pretty good German manufacturer. Never had any problems with them. More similar to the British stuff, but these are of course in HO scale and not OO scale, like all these. Yeah, pretty nice car. Well, we have a box car, and this one is actually a beer company, I believe. And that's all I really know about it. And looks pretty good. They look pretty good running together. I definitely need to start collecting more German cars. And last, we have some Thomas and Friends cars. Again, I just kind of grouped these last here, because I don't really know where else to put them, even though these are technically of British design. So first up we have these three green troublesome trucks. Well, they don't look too troublesome, they look pretty sad in all honesty. I have three of these, I don't really remember why I have three, I guess just to have a nice little consist going. But these Thomas and Friends cars are actually pretty nice, as they're a pretty easy way to get British styled rolling stock in America for pretty cheap, and I can't imagine these faces are too hard to remove, so if you wanted to take them off, I don't think it would be that hard. And the last car here, another Thomas and Friends ones. This is a mail van. This one has definitely less Thomas-y elements. There's no face on it or anything, but I know the symbol isn't very realistic for our actual British mail vans. Nonetheless, I still like this one, and I can actually throw it onto a standard British train. Alright, so that's all the British and European cars. So now I have some of the American passenger cars on here. And I do say some because I couldn't fit all of them on one table, so I'm going to have to do a cut and put some more on once we're done with this lot. Let's get into it. So here's an Amtrak car. This one's actually one of the nicer ones I own. I don't quite remember which brand. I think it's Walthers. Walthers are all of these are either Walthers or Lifelike, and there's one Bachmann in here, so there's that. You know, pretty standard car, nothing too special about it. So let's get to this next one. Here's one of the better ones, an observation car. Always love the way these look. They look so sleek and modern, even though they're really not. It's a pretty neat car. This one of the better ones too. Here's one of the not so good ones. This is a top observer, whatever you would call it, double decker. And this one is pretty cheap, like this plastic bit just comes off. It sometimes the light works. I know there is a light in here, but it only really works when it feels like it, and I'm not really running this one too often. It's very heavy, like unrealistically heavy, I'd say. I don't know what's in this thing that makes it so heavy, but never been a fan of like the silhouette passengers. Here's another with also that silhouette passenger thing. And I think this one is also missing a coupling. Yeah. It's another one that's meant to have lights, but it just doesn't. Or it sometimes works, you know. Here's one, I think this might be Walthers. Again, I don't really remember. It's about time I gave these a clean, honestly. They're pretty filthy. I mean, they're nice to have like laying in a siding as kind of abandoned cars, I guess. The baggage car, this one, I don't know why, it just does not run. All the wheels are there, I haven't noticed any actual problem, but it just constantly derails, and I just can't find a good reason for it. So here's the best Amtrak car I own, because this one's actually a modern Bachmann one. Runs great, never gave me any problems. And yeah, I like this one a lot. This was the first passenger car I ever bought, so it's kind of special for that reason. And then here's the last Amtrak car. This one's a small one, so I guess this would be a first class car or something. Getting pretty dirty. It has like these seam lines. It almost looks like it fell apart at some point and was shoddily glued back together. But this one at least works, so I don't have too much problems with that. So besides this one, all these Amtrak cars I bought in a lot for just $7 at my local train store, so that's why they're not really the best, and I almost regret buying them, but for when I was just starting out in the hobby and I needed some passenger cars to run, $7, I couldn't really go wrong there. Here's one behind this. This is just a generic passenger car, I guess, made by Bachmann. I have no memory of when I bought this, but it has no railroad name or anything. I feel like it might be a Pennsylvania railroad, like an old one. But I can't confirm that, and I think it's just a generic passenger car, really. Here's a Baltimore and Ohio one. I think I got this on Amazon or something. I don't really remember where. I really like the royal blue here. It's pretty nice, and I don't really know what the story behind this is. New York, Philadelphia. I mean, obviously it's pretty classic, so I don't know. And we have the first Southern Pacific car. This is an observation deck car, as you can see. Yeah, all these coming up I got in a lot together too, so yeah, nothing too special about this one. Here's a Lackawanna car. I don't remember why I bought this, but right now I use it as a conversion from hornhook to a knuckle coupler, and I want to run passenger trains with both. Pretty generic, I mean, there's nothing too special about it. Then we have the rest of these Southern Pacific cars, all the nice streamlined versions. These are all Rivarossi, by the way. There's a baggage car. And I'm going to try to brush over these as fast as possible. Other baggage car, and I lied, these aren't all Rivarossi. This one is very clearly a different company, I think Walthers. So you can tell, like, oh, my bad. These are both supposed to be the same design, but one is definitely more detailed than the other. Here's a sleeper car. All the windows, you can tell. And this one doesn't have any wheels. It was like that when I bought it, and I just never bothered getting wheels for it, so I think the seller just threw this one in for free. So next up we have some New York Central passenger cars. I bought these all on a lot on eBay because my New York Central Hudson locomotive had been needing some proper cars for a while, so I decided to just buy them all at once. This is a standard car right here. I think this is a second standard car. After that we have the baggage car, and the mail car. I think this would be sleeper car, let's check. Yep, that's the sleeper car. Then we have this observer car, and I think this one's pretty odd because it doesn't have the standard kind of rounded, sort of like a square, but it's neat for that. That's all these, they're all Rivarossi, and I don't really have too much else to talk about, but they do look fantastic running behind the Hudson. These would be the 20th Century Limited cars. Alright, and then these last few, we have my only Great Northern car. This is the same as that one Amtrak car I showed earlier. It's by Bachmann again, and I'm pretty sure it's the same mold, just different paint scheme. So yeah, pretty much the same quality. It works every time, never gives me any problems. I really like this one. I think I need to get more, and I definitely need to get a proper locomotive to haul it. And lastly, we have these two cars. I really like these cars. I think they're pretty cute running around the layout. Something that you would see in like a museum or at a theme park or something. Very classic kind of open cars. Yeah, they're made by Bachmann. They work pretty well, and I like them a lot. Alright, so that's all the American passenger cars. So next, again, we're going to do some British and European, so stay tuned. So before we get on to the European coaches, I forgot these in the American section. These are the DeWitt Clinton cars. These are made by Bachmann. They're all plastic and honestly not that great, but they came in that starter set with the DeWitt Clinton, if you know what I'm talking about. And these were so tiny and small, I kind of missed them when I was overviewing my show. So there they are if you wanted to see them. They're pretty detailed for what they are, to be fair. Alright, so let's now get into the real European cars. So first we have two British cars. They're pretty much identical, at first glance at least. They're both these nice maroon cars. This one has some problems with the chassis where you can probably hear it. It's skidding against like the actual floor of the coach. And I think that's just a design flaw, or maybe someone went in there and changed the screws so it doesn't fit properly. But this is constantly derailing. It has so much friction under it, I literally can't do anything with it, which is pretty disappointing because I think it's a pretty nice looking coach. Let's just skid that back. And here's another one. This one actually runs pretty nice, but right now I have it as the knuckle coupler converter because I don't really have anything else to run it with, because when I bought these I assumed they'd run nicely together, but they do not. So that's kind of a shame. But once I get more maroon British coaches, I'll definitely make a little nice consist of them. So those are actually all the British stuff I have. You can see I have a lot more kind of European stuff. So we have some French cars. These are all pretty much the same. We have these cream and blue. These are Pullman cars. They all came together, obviously, and this is purely blue because this is a diner car. So there's three of these kind of just standard passenger cars, and there's two diner cars. That's a pretty nice set. I'll give you a side view of the two variants here. They look pretty nice. I'm pretty sure these are made by Lima, and they're actually pretty old, so for their age, I think they're pretty neat little coaches. So let's put these back. And sticking with France, we have the TGV cars. So these obviously run between the two TGV units. I really like these, a nice orange and gray livery. So here's the first one. And then the second car is kind of lopsided, but that's because they're obviously meant to be connected here. And you can see it doesn't really stand on its own, but yeah, together they look nice. I just kind of wish I had a better TGV to run them with, because as you know, mine is kind of not doing so great. But yeah, those are those. I'll definitely have to get a new TGV someday. And then another EMU in between cars, we have the ICE cars. This one's actually pretty interesting because this actually has the pantograph for the train, so it draws all its power through this one coach. I'm assuming on the real thing there would be multiple, but that's pretty neat, pretty interesting. And this one, this is actually very heavy because this is actually the motorized part of that train. In real life, technically all of the cars are powered, but on the model, this is the only one that actually has a motor. And yeah, it's definitely the heaviest piece of rolling stock I own. These look pretty nice considering they're starter set coaches, pretty much. Lastly here, we have Thomas and Friends again. Got these two coaches because they don't really look all that Thomasy, and I really like their livery, and there's some pretty neat British style coaches. So there's all the European coaches. So next we're going to do some cabooses and other miscellaneous rolling stock. So starting with the caboose, we have this nice red Norfolk Southern. This is a pretty stock standard caboose. Like when you hear that word, this is kind of what comes to mind. Pretty standard. I got this in my original starter set, so this was the first one I ever had. And after that, we have another Bachmann one. This is a small little bobber caboose, I think they're called. This one is in Pennsylvania livery. And this one's pretty cute. That's why I picked it up, because it's just kind of adorable. It's fun to throw it on the end of a train. And I really like the design. Next up, we have one that's a bit more radically different. We have a Rock Island, and of course, Rock Island kind of has that McDonald's color scheme almost, with the bright red and yellow. Kind of makes you hungry, doesn't it? I like this one. It stood out to me for obvious reasons. It's pretty unique. So that's why I picked it up. And I think this is actually an old Tyco one from one of their iconic starter sets, I think. So those are the American cabooses. Then we have some British ones. Of course, in Britain they call them brake vans, not cabooses. This is the only true British one I have. It's what they call a towed brake van. And this one's pretty neat. It looks nothing like what we have here. You can actually see the brake handle and everything and where the guard would hang out. I like the design of this one. We have a Thomas & Friends one, even though if you saw it from a distance you wouldn't really be able to tell because there's no face or any Thomas-y features on it, so I usually just use it as a standard British brake van because that's pretty much what it is. So those are all the cabooses / brake vans, and then kind of saved the best for last year. We have some other miscellaneous rolling stock. So first we have this Reading crane. I really like this one. It's a really cool Bachmann Silver Series. It's pretty high quality. And yeah, I just love the design of this thing, and I love getting it out on the layout, though the crane arm can be a bit annoying because it tends to get off-center when it goes around curves, but it's not that big of a deal, and I think it's pretty cool to have hanging out on a siding too. And kind of in that same vein, we have another crane type thing. This is actually a grabber. I don't think I've seen any photos of these in real life, but I'm sure they exist. This was made by Walthers, and it has that Canadian Pacific logo on it, as you can see in that livery. I think these are made to pick up logs that have fallen on the track, or at least that's what makes sense to me, because I don't really see any other practical reason why this would exist. I don't know, it's unique, so that's probably why I got it. And then one that really stands out is this thing. This is a rail cannon. This one's made by Model Power. I only bought this one as a joke because it was like 20 bucks. I'm like, yeah, I might as well. It's pretty low quality overall. Like, you can see some bits of plastic have already started falling off, so... And I don't really have a reason to run it that often. But it's kind of a neat thing, and it's weird that in some form these did exist in real life, though I'm not sure if the US Army ever had any. I know they had some in Britain, and I definitely know Germany had some big ones back in the day, but I don't know about America. And probably one of my favorite pieces of rolling stock, this is a Alaskan rotary snowplow. So at first glance, you might think this is actually a locomotive, because it looks like it has a tender in it. You know, it looks big enough to be a locomotive, but it isn't. It does, however, have a motor, and when it has power hooked up to it, this little front part will spin, if you can make it out. So in real life, these are kind of used up north to clear, like, you know, if there's like a yard of snow, maybe. That's exaggerating a little bit, but you know what I mean. When there's tons of snow on the track, you gotta break these out to get rid of it. So all the snow would get crunched up in these rotary blades and then fly out through this hole here. So that's that. And with that, that's all of my rolling stock in my collection. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later.